Welcome back to Rise and Tell with Shikha. I am Shikha Singh, your host and author. I have got something special to share. My brand new book, Unburnable Ambition: How Overachievers Win Without Burning Out, is coming on Jan 5th, 2026. This book is for all of us who dream big but refuse to let burnout be the price. If you'd like early chapter, preview, and launch bonuses, head to shikhasingh.com/unburnable ambition and sign up today. Now let's dive into today's episode. So there you go, everybody. Today we have with us Sonya Corkery. Welcome to our show, Sonya. How have you been?
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me on. It's great to finally meet you virtually.
Of course, same here. I am so excited to know more about you, and I'm pretty sure our viewers are dying to know your story. So let's start with that.
Okay, well, my story, if I started from where I really made the decision that I was never ever going to try to put myself in a sense of struggle again, I was quite young. My mother was extremely entrepreneurial, but like serial, as in multi businesses throughout her life. She really loved the challenge of building something. But what always seemed to happen was she was really successful and she made all this money. And then either by no fault of her own or because of advice from others, she'd made decisions that put her in a position where essentially she would lose it all, right? And so I remember being on a rainy day in a very cold area, probably a little bit similar to Canada, I suppose, walking to school with a garbage bag on me because I couldn't afford to have a raincoat. And so I kind of looked around and thought in that moment, I don't ever want to be in this position. Like, we were not able to live in a house. We couldn't afford to rent anything. We were living underneath one of our businesses in a mechanic workshop, which just had, bare concrete floor and no walls, and it was really cold. And so that really started my journey of the mindset of, I never want this when I am an adult human. Right. So I'm going to make every decision that I can to put me in the best position. And what I can see is there's no forward planning here. Everything's really, last minute decision, and not through any fault of her own. She's extremely good at the things that she's done. It's just that I like to plan. I like to know what's going to happen. And sometimes that works. And sometimes there's things out of your control that, you can't do anything about. And that was really the case for us. So fast forward, been in business, nearly 2 decades, running a multi-million-dollar business with my husband in electrical contracting. So that's a construction-based company here in Australia, in multiple locations, big teams, big projects.
Right.
And within a space of probably, I want to say 3 to 6 months, 3 large clients that we had, which were all builders, folded in COVID, just shut down, right? So we were like overnight gone, just $800,000 just off the table, plus everything that we had anticipated we would be earning with the forecasting of our pipeline, right? So, we've got team to pay, we've got overheads, liabilities to cover. We sat down and crunched the numbers, and we had 5 days worth of funding. When we looked at everything we owed, we had 5 days. And I cried like the deepest sob cry that you could cry. And I looked at my husband, and he's like, we're done. Like, this is it. After, 2 decades of doing this.
Right.
Not even any fault of our own, done everything right. Everything was paid up to date. Didn't owe any money to our taxation office. That would have paid out all of our bills. And yeah, and I was like, one day I had the breaking down, and the next day I was like, no, this is not happening. We are not doing this. I consult for people. We can't close this. There's no way, right? And it's only because of my background, I suppose. Prior to my business with my husband, I was in corporate finance, and I think it's only because of that and the strategic aspect of financial planning and corporate lending and knowing and understanding the products that we actually made our way out of that. Now, it did take a good 12 to 18 months for me to do that. And a lot of work with, agreeing with suppliers and utilizing different products to give us leeway and cash flow. But we got there. Like, there's a lot of people who kind of just throw their hands up and go, look, I'm done. I couldn't do that. I straight away went back to that space in my mind at 8 years old, walking through the rain with that raincoat on, going, I always said it wasn't going to happen to me, and I can't let it happen now. Like, we have 3 kids.
Right.
So, business has taught me so many amazing things, and I'm so grateful that I've been able to have that opportunity to be a business owner. I know it's not for everybody, and that's okay. You can have the same successes and have a job. It's just that as a business owner, we have the potential to have uncapped income. And
Right.
so, from a wealth perspective, it's such an amazing vehicle to have that. So
Correct.
what I actually do now is I take all of the things that I've learned over the decades of business, as well as my previous corporate career, and I combine them into a consulting role where I help businesses, grow their own business, but also make sure that they're provisioning and putting stuff aside outside of that business for themselves, so that when they want to have that time in their life where they're like, I've finished that now, I'm done, I want to sell,
Yeah.
or I'd like to pass that down to family, they have the comfort of knowing that they've got retirement funds for the rest of their life. And
Correct.
retirement could be at 50 instead of 60 or 70, if they provision early enough.
Correct.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that's my story, I suppose.
That's awesome. And that's super impressive, Sonia. One, because it talks about resilience, and two, you never gave up. No matter how hard things were, like you said, most of the people would have just given up if they were in your position. But you remembered what you went through as a child, and it was so strong that you changed your mindset. And I like the fact how you implemented what you learned in your corporate finance career, and then applied to businesses. Most times, people, I feel, especially these days, try to make 9 to 5 as the enemy, and they always try to talk about, oh, the rut, and the, like, it's draining me, it's doing this, and then I want to become a business owner, I want to do something of my own, I want to be my own boss. But I have heard from multiple successful business owners that most of the times, that discipline and the standards that they follow in their businesses have been because of what they were trained to do in their corporate 9 to 5 job. And you are a great example of that, because you did exactly same. And
Oh,
that's wonderful.
I could not agree more. The opportunities that were provided to me so I worked for a big four bank in Australia, and if you're not aware, our banks in Australia are some of the richest in the world. They make a lot of money, so they get their piece of pie out of the Australian public.
Right.
And so I said yes to every bit of training that was offered to me when I started my corporate career. I wanted to be a bank manager when I first started. I started in the branches. By the time I was 23, I was a bank manager, and my husband and I owned 5 properties at that point, which we sold later, but that's another story. But we went from there, and then I went into corporate lending, so commercial finance, which taught me amazing things about how to structure to buy corporate warehousing, especially if you have trade-based business and you want to own where you operate out of. So that gives you not only a great asset, but stability in your business as well, and then financial planning on top of that. So for
Wow.
me, I was actually asked to come in for an interview in a bank because I worked in retail sales. I was selling toasters at a Good Guys, which is like a large retail chain. And they said, you're really great at selling. So why don't you come over to the bank? Because ultimately it's all sales, irrespective of whatever
Right.
business you work in. And so I had some of the skill set, but so much more to learn. And I just kept saying, yes, yes, I want training. And they were paying for the training. So I'm
Correct.
thinking this is great. Like I'm getting paid. I'm getting an education that's formalized and recognized, a certification. I'm getting paid to do that. I'm getting paid to travel around the country to undertake said training on their money. They're putting me up in great hotels in cities, which is fantastic. And I'm having a great life. Like, I thought it was amazing. And and then when my husband's he started this business originally with nothing. He'd saved
Wow.
up cash over a period of time. I think it was about $20,000 he'd saved. He came home one day when our middle son was 2 weeks old. He said, "I quit my job today. I've decided I'm gonna be a business owner." And I was like,
Wow.
"Okay." And it was so great to see that grow from nothing over,
Right.
all of this time into multi branches and multi millions of dollars and huge team and projects, winning awards and great accolades that we received. But he had so much structure and determination and drive, and I had a lot of the skill set to help run the financial back end of the business. And so I think you can really collaborate with people. And
Yeah.
if that's not your significant other, right, that's fine. Hire people that are better at that skill set than you when you're
Yeah.
along your journey. Um, they've picked up great skill sets from their PAYG job.
Correct. Correct. I have a question for you, Sonia. So, when you decided that okay, it was time to quit your 9 to 5 or your corporate job and focus on the business full time, were you scared?
Yes and no.
Wow.
Because look, I always have a nervous excitement when I'm stepping into something that's unknown. I think we all do. It's a bit like you're going to a theme park, you're getting on the roller coaster ride, it's going to make you feel
Yeah.
uneasy and out of control, right? And we don't like that because we are creatures of habit and we like
Right.
stability and we like the known. And especially if we're really good in our own space, if we're the
Right.
top dog in our job and we're super comfortable, we don't really want to start a whole new thing that's
Yeah.
fresh, okay?
Exactly.
Unless it's super advantageous and financially beneficial. But I suppose I trusted in the fact that there is so much money in the world to be made. Why can't we have the right to try to make some of that for ourselves? There's
Wow.
so much opportunity to learn in the world.
Yes.
It's easier to learn than ever before. We have so many amazing platforms on the internet now that were never available in the 90s or the 80s or earlier. I just wanted to keep saying yes to opportunity because what's the worst that could happen? I learn some stuff and it doesn't go anywhere. Cool. No problem, because I could always go back and get a job.
Yeah.
I knew I had faith in my skill set that I was very employable. So I was willing to take the risk, and we had financial monies there, obviously, as a backing. And we kind of said, okay, well, we have enough to last us this time. So if we can't get traction, then we know what we have to do. But
Right.
David was already so successful having started on his own. He came to me and he said, look, I need you full time. And I quit my job. I was on about $140,000 a year base
Wow.
to come in and work for him on about 70.
Half of
Yeah.
what you were earning. Wow.
Yeah, because I was like, well, this is what we've got to do. The business is not in a position where it could afford to pay me that. And
Mm.
for that position at that time, 140,000 would have been ludicrous,
Exactly.
for an administrative slash, accounts position. And yeah, and we just made it work. But in business, the business afforded us to have so many things that it paid for. And
Yes.
so when you're looking in the terms of salary when you have a business, yes, that's what you take home, but the business can cover so many more things. And I think that's a lot of the advantages that we get as business owners, that
Wow.
unfortunately that's the downside, I suppose, of having a job. You may not get that level of extra
Exactly.
fringe benefits.
And I love your mindset here, Sonia, because I think I am following your track and the way you think, because you said that when you decided to get into the business, you leveraged everything that you learned and you went with the mindset of abundance, that there's enough money in the world. Now, not too long ago, I had the opportunity of interviewing the crew, the cast of this documentary called The Science of Getting Rich. And the director, Doug Vermeeren, he was obsessed about that book, The Science of Getting Rich. And that book was written in like early 1900s. I'm not even talking about the 90s, like 1920 or 1930 something. And he said, all of that, like The Secret, the movie and the book The Secret, it was based on the law of attraction. But this is all about law of abundance and how you I mean, not manifest directly, but then how you think about it, how you start getting that mindset. And no matter who I interviewed from that documentary, they were all from different domains, different areas, and they excelled at it, but they were also rich and they had wealth, and everybody said the exact same thing that you just said. They said there's so much money in the world, and you will start, getting there or thinking like getting rich only when you start thinking and changing your mindset and get out of that scarcity ideas that you have in your brain. Oh, what's going to happen if, I lose my job? Or think of it in a different way. And that's exactly what you said. I am impressed, actually. Yeah, this is crazy because you are like, I'm pretty sure that, it's different. You are on the other corner of the world and you had no idea about this, but your concepts and your mindset is on point and exactly what the experts had to say. So I'm very, very impressed, Sonia. I want you to teach us or at least share your experiences of, you've seen the highs and you've seen the lows. You've seen what it takes when you're super successful, $1 million businesses. And then you've also seen everything where everything's gone in like 5 days, like you said, which is unfortunate, but you came out of it. And again, that's because of your experience. So, what would be one of your top two suggestions? Actually, not one, but what would be your top two suggestions to people who already are business owners and who might be on the verge of closing or shutting down and they have no clue what to do?
Okay. So in respects to, I always, obviously budgeting is something that people think is a dirty word. I do that for our family, I do that for our business. It helps with our cash flow. So I love numbers. I absolutely love numbers. I'm not to the point where don't get me wrong, I love a good spreadsheet, but I'm not one that will build one, right?
Yeah.
Because in my mind, from a financial planning perspective, I'm a strategist. And so I love to strategically plan for a business. And what I would be doing right now, if you're in a precarious position, is I would be mapping out the next 3, 6, 12 months financially, money in, money out. And I would be basically saying we need to close off anything that we're bleeding. So going through so for me, I use Xero, but you could go through any of your P&L and every single expense line item. If you do not absolutely need it to survive, cut it out, get rid of it, pull back. You need to be able to pull back 5 to 10% immediately on expenses. There's a lot of things that people say we do need, but do you objectively really need it? We need it to have the business actually operating and functioning correctly. If you have accounts that are owed to you, you need to collect on those things like a crazy person. You need to be getting that money in your pocket ASAP. You need to look at it like they are taking food off your plate and turning the lights off in your house. That is the point that you need to be pushing. If money is owed to you, and if it's by friends and family, they should know that you need that to survive. And if people are doing that to you, they're not your friends, okay? If they are taking advantage of a situation where you are being kind and trying to offer services, if they ask you for a discount, they're not supporting you. If you're in business and that is the market rate, they would pay that with anybody else. Do you ask for discounts from them or do you ask for favors from them? Unless there is an equal value exchange, no. That is not being in business. And it's really hard to say that to some people. And some people need to know their worth and then just say, look, I appreciate that you want that air conditioning duct installed for a discount. Unfortunately, this is the market rate. If you don't want that, that's fine. Then I can't assist you. I can recommend another installer if you'd like. And they'll be offended and they'll probably hold it against you. But if you're trying to be successful in this world, does their opinion matter because you wouldn't give them a discount? Like, you have to be objective, okay? Know your worth and know what you want. Now, the best thing that I ever did is I said, I would like to have a world where I have a magic number in my mind, okay? What do my life options look like? If I was on the bare bones back where I was living in my mind, back with the raincoat on, what would that life look like? I could probably live on that life now with my 3 kids and a family of 5 for maybe 100, 150,000 Australian dollars, right? Because we got a pretty expensive economy.
Right.
If I was having a really good, comfortable life, what financial amount would that look like right now? Probably $400,000 to $500,000. If I was living a pretty comfortable life, now I'm not talking, I'm not a Jeff Bezos, but I'm pretty comfortable. I'd say $1 million a year. I'd be pretty happy with that, right? This is passive to me.
Right.
If you take that number, whatever that number is, and however you come up with that number, it might be our holidays, fancy car, home, whatever. and you divide that by 5%, that will give you the total number of assets you will need to have returning 5% to give you a passive income stream of that amount. Now, if that's on top and in excess of your business,
Right.
or your business is the vehicle, which it always should be, to get you to that point, you need to lock that in and strategically plan and focus on that number. You need to then reverse engineer everything in your business for the next 12, 18 months, 2 years, whatever period, to get you to that point where you are starting to pull money out of that business and park it over here in a different asset to
Right.
build passive income. That could be shares, that could be crypto, that could be property. It could be anything that's going to get you there that you like and know and understand as an investment standpoint. Now, there
Right.
is always risks involved in that, but you need to
Correct.
be conscious of risks and mitigate them as best as possible. You need to work in with legal and structure that stuff outside so that people can't take it from you. And you
Right.
need to put barriers, I suppose, between yourself and your business. So if you're a solopreneur, it's a bit more challenging because you are your business
Yeah.
and legally, you're 100% liable. But when you're a director of a company, there's a barrier there. When your assets are held in trust outside of your company, there's a barrier there. If those assets, say it's a big commercial warehouse and you decide I'm going to lease that to my company and my company's going to operate out of it, there's a barrier there, right? And you're in control. So the risk is mitigated to a degree.
Right.
And so if you can do nothing else but sit down and go, I need to set out a very clear goal and some strategic plan. I need to cut back expenses and increase profits as much as possible. And if you just work day and night until you can get your head up and breathe on that, you will get out. You just need to use things to give you more cash flow time. So banking products, in most banks, sometimes they'll give you a temporary overdraft if you're in a really precarious position, if you can prove that you've got money coming in down the track. And
Right.
that might be for 40 days, but it might be enough to get you through that hole that you're in, right? Asking your suppliers to give you extended terms because they would rather get their money from you in a whole amount than
And
have to make a cents on the dollar arrangement, right? So
correct.
there's heaps of stuff you can do. Don't get stuck in the rut. People do it all the time, but you got to be determined and you got to make that decision, because once you do and you plant that foot, you will get out of there, because that's the difference between people who are successful and people who aren't. People fail all the time. Just learn and move on, right?
Yes.
It's not the end of the world. You'll wake up and breathe tomorrow, I promise.
100%. Yes. I love it. I know I asked you for like top two, but you gave like
Sorry.
20 suggestions, and I love that. I love that. So beneficial. And I think your experience speaks for itself, Sonia, because all the points that you gave were super actionable and so easy. It's easy to forget when you're a business owner, when you're in that and you're just heads down just trying to do the right thing, but then in hindsight you've missed out on all these basic but important steps that are needed to secure like a good future. And that number, I think that's amazing. It doesn't just apply to business owners, I feel like it applies to human beings. I mean, at your personal level as well, because most of the times I see people struggle with financial planning. They might earn a lot of money, but then somehow, and I'm seeing this these days a lot, where I'm at a stage where all my friends are having kids now, one kid, two kids. And what I see happening is most of them will have an amazing career, but then they get into the cycle of show off, status, and, a certain kind of a lifestyle. And then every time we talk about finances, there's always the discussion of, oh, but we don't have enough money. Oh, but we cannot afford that. Oh, but when I look at certain people, I know there's nothing wrong in, living below the means. And there's nothing wrong when you're trying to save a few dollars here and a few dollars there. But at the end of the day, I feel like if you're not planning now, like in your 30s, what are you actually doing? And if you don't have that number in your head, like you just said, what are you even planning for? And
Exactly.
how are you setting your goals? I think I love that. That's brilliant.
You can still have a barista coffee and not have to buy it, right? So in COVID, one of the great things that happened with COVID is it allowed us this way of communicating. But I ordered a coffee machine I got beans from a friend of mine. They have
Mhm.
a great bean company. She shipped it to me. I have this barista made coffee every day. I learned another skill set that I had to learn. And now I take my thing in a travel every day, right? And then people like, oh my God, but I love the act of the coffee and going out. Cool. If the coffee is $7 or $8 and I can make it at home and it's just as good in my Yeti, and I travel, I'm everywhere all the time because, I'm seeing clients. I get the act of the having the coffee. The act is the beverage. I enjoy a beverage. If it's the act of going out that you enjoy, identify that. Don't say it's the coffee. Now let's
Yeah.
be objective, right? And I'm not pinning on anybody who wants to have a good coffee because I love a good coffee. Australia has an amazing coffee culture too, by the way.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, if you really look at your goals and when you start mapping them out, and I've got a great process for this, so people reach out to me if you want to know. If you're mapping out your goals, you look at it on paper and you got to look at it and say, is that really what I want? Like that Aston Martin, is that for me, or is that because I want to impress my in-laws or my neighbor
Mm,
down the road, right? If you genuinely can ask yourself that objectively and you don't have that little part of the brain going, you deserve it, you should just get it, right? But if you're like, would I really want it? Like, would I actually drive it? Because then I'd be so scared that somebody's going to scratch it and I can't take it into, you know, Walmart, or like I'm not going to go to the chemist, and park it there because someone's going to put the trolley into the side of it. So
right.
then all of a sudden you buy this asset for $500,000. You never drive it because you're scared of, taking it anywhere. It's your pride and joy and you love it. But then you're worried, oh my God, what if somebody says that I have too much money, or they judge me then? And then you're getting the negative, right?
Yeah.
If you genuinely love it and you don't care and you can afford it, get the thing. If it's part of the journey, get the thing. But if that car is stopping you getting a house, and you want the house, then let's be real. Let's get the house first and
Right.
let's get ahead on that payment or pay that off before
Right.
we go and get the thing that, we can't live in the car. I'd say an Aston Martin's probably pretty uncomfy to sleep in. You know what I mean? Like, let's be real
Exactly.
about it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but I'm not dissing success. I love success in every way. And I want it for every single person who listens to this podcast and everyone, whether they're in a job or in business. I want you to be successful,
Yeah.
but I want you to be objective about the position you're in now. I want you to strategically plan, but I want you to map that dream out, because without mapping the dream, where are you going? Like you said, what's the goal? What's the plan? And you know
Right.
what? When you get there, we reset and we go again. It never
Yeah.
stops. And
Yeah.
that's the great thing about life. Once you achieve something, cool. What's the next thing you want to do? Let's make a list. Let's tick everything off that list, right? And
Yeah.
that's what we want to do, is we want to help people get there using their business as the vehicle to get them there.
Yeah. Wow. I love it. I love every point that you're bringing up, Sonia, because it's hitting right there. And you're it's like a no BS, straight to the point, action list that anybody can follow right now, starting today. So let's talk about debt for a minute. How can someone manage their debt? Let's say they have, I'm just going to throw out a number, 50,000 of
Yep.
debt,
Yep.
credit card debt, or whatever that is, but they want to start a business.
Mm.
Now they don't have enough cash. What are their options?
So what I would probably do in that instance, I'd have to do a personal financial budget of where they are right now and what income they're bringing in, because that's really important. We need to make sure we meet our obligations. If we don't meet our obligations, that can put things on our credit file that affect us later. And so
Yeah.
you can start a business now. You can start your business as a side hustle tomorrow in any country in the world. You have to objectively look at that business and say, do I want this? Is it just me wanting this to work, or is this a proven thing? If you're unsure if the business will work, you need to do some tests first before you go all in. I'm just going to say that.
Right.
And so in the instance of consulting for me, it came about because people kept asking me for help and I was like, I probably shouldn't charge for this, right? So is there a want and need? And if so, how big is it? And how much do you estimate you're going to be able to make from this business? Because as I said, if you can work a full-time job and start the business as a side hustle, that's ideal, because whatever you're making from the business, you need to be either reinvesting back into that business or taking some out and just smashing that debt down as soon as possible. Okay.
Correct.
I do absolutely in some regard believe in Dave Ramsey's structure as far as the baby steps, the snowball, start from the smallest to largest. If you have credit cards, get them knocked on the head straight away. I would want to see everybody in no personal debt when they're trying to do this business, because the business in the beginning will find it very difficult to cover itself as well as the personal debt as well. Okay.
Right.
Once you get to a point in your business, you would have your personal budget and your business budget. And in that business budget, I would like to see everybody that's listening read the book Profit First. And I would like to see those things implemented in a very, very broad spectrum. And I've done it. And in my experience, having those accounts set up so that you know you've got a set profit and it's being parked, all your liabilities are being parked and they're set, and knowing what it cost you just to open the doors of your business. So again, with the budgeting, with that in the business, if you set that up straight away, in that profit that you're pulling, whatever the percentage may be, in the first few years, that business either might not make a profit or it will be very little. Yes. So if you can't afford to reinvest that back in, that would be hard. But if you can afford to take some of that out and start smashing down that debt, that's ideal. We kind of need to have 2 feet on pedals at the same time. It's like 2 accelerators in a fast car, right? You're straddling both sides. You're trying to do 2 things. And I know it's challenging. And that's why 85% of businesses fail in Australia within the first 3 years. Because it's just people give up. It's too hard, right? Yeah. But if you are determined and tenacious and you're like, I am going to make this work, you will reduce that debt as quickly as possible. You know, as Dave Ramsey says, rice and beans, right? You got to cut right back. Do not even care about what people think about you. Sell everything off in your house if you haven't used it for 6 months. Right. Not your children. Don't keep them there, right? Anything that's of value that you're not using, you can buy another one of those, unless it's a 1 in a million and it's super antique or irreplaceable. Sell the thing you're not using. If you've got a treadmill there that you're not using, go and walk outside, sell that thing, right? Yeah. Get as much down as possible, smash that debt as quickly as possible, because that business is going to need all of you, the best at your capacity to function properly. That also comes back to mindset. Be around people who are going through the same thing as you. Join a business group. Be in discussions, catch up with people and talk about it. It doesn't matter what industry, and you're all going through the same stuff, right? And it doesn't matter if you're in a $20 million business, $100 million business, or a $500,000 business. You're all going through the same struggles. Team and culture, financial structures, legality, clients, all of the stuff is essentially the same. Right. So we're all in it together, and we've got to find a space where we can feel supported and support others as well. And that mindset change will give you so much comfort, I promise.
Correct. Wow. Incredible. I think this has been like a brain load. I know it's a brain dump for you, but it's like, it's great because all those things I could relate to, and all those things I feel are so important, especially, young people who are just entering the workforce, or people who are just starting to save a little bit where they are in that position. Like, it's so easy, I feel, to get into that debt. And the way you explained it is amazing, because you're trying to balance, and nobody said it's going to be easy, but you have to deal with it. That's, I feel, it is so important, because people forget and they're so easy to give up, which is why I know earlier when I started the podcast, I kept, for so many years, I just kept postponing everything. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'll do it. And then, I wrote a book in 2021. People kept asking me, when's the next one? I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. I'll get to it. But then you have to be, you'll come to a certain point in your life where you look back and you would feel, oh shoot, I wasted so much time and money. I could have done this instead. And I feel like that's how your tips are, Sonya, because I feel like even if we implemented 2 out of those 5 things that you just said, those are going to help you so much. You gave a book suggestion, you quoted Dave Ramsey and his snowball thing, you suggested selling off stuff. That's the thing. It's like these days people are so attached to the material things and the lifestyle and the status that that bothers me so much. Whenever I visit somebody's house, whenever I meet someone after a very long time, people are so curious and showing off the materialistic things. And on the other hand, I'm like, no, I don't want to know how much your couch costed you. I want to know what you invested in yourself. What's your debt? What's your, debt to income ratio? How are you doing? And I feel one of the other things is, Sonia, like you said, I love the point where you said, meet with people who are going through the same thing. And I think that is something that all of us have to be very mindful of, because people can get you down so quick, especially when you're doing good, or especially when you're at that verge where you're like, I don't know if I'm going to, last here or not. Am I taking the right decision? Because right frame and right mindset people in your surroundings will help you so much. I have like 5 different set of friends, and out of those 5, I can clearly tell you which 2 people I can go to for financial advice and who can understand what I'm saying. The other 3 would be like, why do you keep talking about money all the time? And, please take this conversation elsewhere. We just want to enjoy life. And I'm like, okay, all right, fine.
You don't want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about it because something's happened in their life that told them money is bad and that
Yeah,
it shouldn't be spoken about in public. And that might have been the way they're brought up, and that's fine. But at least you know how to observe that and go, cool, I can't have that conversation with you. But if you come to me and you ask me because you're curious, because I've planted the seed, that's awesome, because I want to help you. I want to get you there where you're feeling more comfortable about talking about money. That's fine. I think we should. Like my discussions with my kids over the dinner table, and I've got a 13-year-old and he is going to be an amazing business owner, I think. We talk about what shares are going well in the market. We talk about crypto. Every week they get $20 a week to invest in the share market. And every
wow.
week they get money into bullion. So they get $10 a week and it goes into gold and silver and platinum, right? It's just
Yeah.
splits off. So it doesn't hit them directly, but they've got control over those assets. And it's only a little bit each week,
Yes.
but it's budgeted and they get it, right? And so what I'd say to people, if you're scared and you don't want to take the plunge, or you've convinced yourself, anyone who talks about money, they're not living life or whatever. I live my life. I'm going to Malaysia in like 3 or 4 weeks, and then I'm going to
Ooh,
Singapore, right? We're living life. We're having a great time. Come over here and enjoy it with us. We want to help you. Okay.
exactly.
But if you budget accordingly for those things and you want to get into investing, there's another great investment book written by a New Zealand lady. It's called Girls That Invest. I can't remember the author, I'm sorry right now, but it's pink and purple cover. You'll love it, right? Really well explained so clearly how to look at investing, what options there are, and how to know and understand them on a really great level. Excellent read. So, if you've got those friends, just say, cool, I respect that. And, we're in different places when it comes to money, but I love you. You're my friend and I want to support you. But if you're ever curious or interested in that, I want to help you. So, please feel free to reach out to me at that time. And they might walk away and be going, I don't know what is going on. But, in that time of their life when they're really freaking out, they're going to come to you and they're going to ask for help. And that's going to be the most amazing support you can ever give them as a friend.
Correct. I agree. Well, this was brilliant. Brilliant, Sonia. I love it. Thank you so much for these amazing tips and suggestions. Before we end the show, I want to ask you, is there anything that you'd like to share with our audience? Any tip, any quick thing that they can implement today, right now, to clean up their finances, both as a business owner or personally?
I think definitely if you're a business owner, please get onto Profit First by Mike Molowitz. Read that book, apply it. If you can't implement or you have trouble, there are actually accredited advisors on that can help you with that. And that, I think, is definitely worth looking at the investment. If you are not in a business and you're happy with a job or you're looking to get into business, please, please, please have a similar structure to Profit First in your personal budgeting. You can get free savings accounts usually from the banks. So they give you a transactional account and then savings accounts, right? You can label them. You can automatically set up money to park there. If you don't want to see it because you think you're going to touch it, put your transactional banking in one bank and your savings in another. Cut up the card and destroy it. Just don't have immediate access, right? but $5 or $10 a week, if you can afford it, on top of paying down your debt like a crazy person, will absolutely add up over time. You won't think it will, but before you know it, there'll be money in there. Don't come to Christmas and decide to spend it. Have a clear vision and goal locked in your mind. Put it up, put it around you, make it visual every day, and just continue to improve or progress a few percent every week until you get to that point. You will be absolutely amazed at how much progress you make if you keep moving forward.
Awesome. Brilliant and incredible. Thank you so much, Sonya. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. I know I have learned a lot after today's session, and I hope our audience has done too. So thank you so much. And I wish you all the very best in all your future endeavors. And you're truly inspiring.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great to be able to share my story. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you, Sonya. Thank you for tuning in for today's episode of Rise and Tell with Sheekha. My upcoming book, Unburnable Ambition, is all about how to chase your biggest goals without losing yourself to burnout. You can now sign up at shekhasingh.com/unburnable ambition for early access and launch updates. Until next time, keep growing, keep glowing, and be yourself, and keep your ambition unburnable. Thank you.